Now we come to chapter 10 of Nicholas Nickleby, and Dickens shifts the spotlight away from Nicholas to his sister Kate. On the second morning after the departure of Nicholas for Yorkshire, Kate Nickleby sat in a very faded chair raised upon a very dusty throne in Miss La Creevy's room, giving that lady a sitting for the portrait upon which she was engaged, and towards the full perfection of which Miss La Creevy had had the street door case brought upstairs, in order that she might be better able to infuse into the counterfeit countenance of Miss Nickleby a bright salmon flesh tint which she had originally hit upon while executing the miniature of a young officer there contained therein, and which bright salmon flesh tint was considered by Miss La Creevy's chief friends and patrons to be quite a novelty in art, as indeed it was.
"I think I have caught it now," said Miss La Creevy. "The very shade. This will be the sweetest portrait I have ever done, certainly."
"It will be your genius that makes it so, then, I am sure," replied Kate, smiling.
No, I won't allow that, my dear," rejoined Miss La Creevy. "It's a very nice subject indeed, though, of course, something depends upon the mode of treatment."
"And not a little," observed Kate.
"Well, my dear, you are right there, said Miss La Creevy. "In the main, you are right there, though I don't allow that it is of such very great importance in the present case. The difficulties of art."
"They are very great, my dear." "They must be, I have no doubt," said Kate, humouring her good-natured little friend.
"They are beyond anything you can form the faintest conception of," replied Miss La Creevy. "What with bringing out eyes with all one's power, and keeping down noses with all one's force, and adding to heads, and taking away teeth altogether, you have no idea of the trouble one little miniature is."
"The remuneration can scarcely repay you," said Kate.
"Oh, why, it does not, and that is the truth," answered Miss La Creevy. "And then people are so dissatisfied and unreasonable that 9 times out of 10 there's no pleasure in painting them. Sometimes they say, 'Oh, how very serious you have made me look, Miss La Creevy,' and others, 'La, Miss La Creevy, how very smirking,' when the very essence of a good portrait is that it must be either serious or smirking, or it's no portrait at all."
"Indeed," said Kate, laughing.
"Certainly, my dear, because the cities are always either one or the other." "And when," she went on after a long silence, to wit an interval of a full minute and a half, when do you expect to see your uncle again?"
"I scarcely know. I had expected to see him before now," replied Kate. "Soon, I hope, for this state of uncertainty is worse than anything."
"I suppose he has money, hasn't he?" inquired Miss La Creevy.
"He is very rich, I have heard," rejoined Kate. "I don't know that he is, but I believe so."
You may depend upon it that he is, or he wouldn't be so surly," remarked Miss La Creevy, who was an odd little mixture of shrewdness and simplicity. When a man's a bear, he is generally pretty independent.
His manner is certainly rough.
Rough! cried Miss La Creevy. A porcupine's a feather bed to him. I never met such a cross-grained old savage.
It's only his manner, I believe, observed Kate timidly. He was disappointed in early life, I think I have heard, or has lost his temper, soured by some calamity. I should be sorry to think ill of him until I knew he deserved it.
Well, that's very right and proper, observed the miniature painter, and heaven forbid that I should be the cause of your doing so. But now, mightn't he, without feeling it himself, make you and your mamma some nice little allowance that would keep you both comfortable until you are well married, and be a fortune for mamma afterwards? What would 100 a year, for instance, be to him?
I don't know what it would be to him, said Kate with some energy, but it would be to me something that I would rather die than take.
Hey-day! cried Miss La Creevy.
A dependence upon him, said Kate, would embitter my whole life. I should feel begging of far less degradation.
Well, exclaimed Miss La Creevy, this is of a relation of whom you will not hear an indifferent person speak ill, my dear. It certainly sounds odd, I confess.
I dare say it does, replied Kate, speaking more gently. Indeed, I am sure it must. I only mean that feelings and recollections of better times upon me, I could not bear to live on anyone's bounty, particularly not upon his. I only ask of him, continued Kate, whose tears fell while she spoke, that he will move so little out of his way in my behalf as to enable me by his recommendation, only by his recommendation, to earn, literally, my bread and remain with my mother. Whether we shall ever taste happiness again depends upon the fortunes of my dear brother, but if he will do this, and Nicholas only tells us that he is well and cheerful, I shall be contented. As she ceased to speak, there was a rustling behind the screen which stood between her and the door, and some person knocked at the wainscot.
Come in, whoever it is, cried Miss La Creevy.
The person complied, and coming forward at once gave to view the form and features of no less an individual than Mr. Ralph Nickleby himself.
Your servant, ladies,
said Ralph, looking sharply at them by turns.
You were talking so loud that I could hardly make you hear.
When the man of business had a more than commonly vicious snarl lurking at his heart, he had a trick of almost concealing his eyes under their thick and protruding brows for an instant, and then displaying them in their full keenness, as he did so now, and tried to keep down the smile which parted his thin compressed lips and puckered up the bad lines around his mouth. They both felt certain that some part, if not the whole, of their recent conversation had been overheard.
I called in on my way upstairs, more than half expecting to find you here, said Ralph, addressing his niece and looking contemptuously at the portrait. Is that my niece's portrait, Mum?
Yes, it is, Mr. Nickleby, said Miss La Creevy with a very sprightly air. And between you and me and the post, sir, I aver that it will be a very nice portrait, too, though I say it shouldn't.
Don't trouble yourself to show it to me, Mum, cried Ralph, moving away. I've no eye for likenesses. Is it nearly finished?
Why, yes, replied Miss La Creevy, considering with the pencil end of her brush in her mouth.
2 sittings will be more than— Have them at once, ma'am, have them at once, said Ralph. She'll have no more time to idle on fooleries after tomorrow. Work, ma'am, work. We must all work. Have you let your lodgings?
I had not put a bill up yet, sir.
Put it up at once, ma'am. They won't need the rooms after this week, or if they do and can't pay for them, well, now, my dear, if you're ready, we'll lose no more time.
With an assumption of kindness which sat worse upon him even than his usual manner, Mr. Ralph Nickleby motioned to the young lady to precede him, and, bowing gravely to Miss La Creevy, closed the door and followed upstairs, where Mrs. Nickleby received him with many expressions of regard. Stopping them somewhat abruptly, Ralph waved his hand with an impatient gesture and proceeded to the object of his visit.
"I found a situation for your daughter, ma'am," said Ralph.
"Oh, well," replied Mrs. Nickleby. "Now, I will say that is only just what I expected of you. Depend upon it, I said to Kate only yesterday morning at breakfast, depend upon it that after your uncle has provided in the most ready manner for Nicholas, he will not leave us until he has done at least the same for you. Those were my very words, as near as I can remember. Kate, my dear, why don't you thank your—"
"Let me proceed, ma'am, pray," said Ralph, interrupting his sister-in-law in the full torrent of her discourse.
"Kate, my love, do let your uncle proceed," said Mrs. Nickleby. "I'm most anxious that he should proceed," rejoined Kate.
"The situation that I have interest to procure, ma'am," said her uncle, "is with a milliner and dressmaker, in short."
"A milliner!" cried Mrs. Nickleby.
"A milliner and dressmaker, ma'am," replied Ralph. "Dressmakers in London, as I need not remind you, ma'am, are so well acquainted with all matters in the ordinary routine of life that they make large fortunes. They keep carriages and become persons of great wealth and fortune."
Now, the first idea called up in Mrs. Nickleby's mind by the words milliner and dressmaker were connected with certain wicker baskets lined with black oilskin, which she remembered to have seen carried to and fro in the street. But as Ralph proceeded, these disappeared, and were replaced by visions of large houses at the West End, neat private carriages, and a banker's book, all of which images succeeded each other with such rapidity that he had no sooner finished speaking than she nodded her head and said, very true, with great appearance of satisfaction. What your uncle says is very true, Kate, my dear."
Ralph continued, "The lady's name is Mantalini, Madame Mantalini. I know her. She lives near Cavendish Square. If your daughter is disposed to try after the situation, I'll take her there directly."
"Have you nothing to say to your uncle, my love?" inquired Mrs. Nickleby. "A great deal," replied Kate, "but not now. I would rather speak to him when we are alone. It will save his time if I thank him and say what I wish to say to him as we walk along." With these words, Kate hurried away to hide the traces of emotion that were stealing down her face, and to prepare herself for the walk, while Mrs. Nickleby amused her brother-in-law by giving him, with many tears, a detailed account of the dimensions of a rosewood cabinet piano they had possessed in their days of affluence, together with a miniature description of 8 drawing-room chairs with turned legs and green chintz squabs to match the curtains, which cost £2.15 apiece, and the sale had gone for almost nothing. These reminiscences were at length cut short by Kate's return in her walking dress, when Ralph, who had been fretting and fuming during the whole time of her absence, lost no time and used very little ceremony in descending into the street. "Now," he said, taking her arm, "walk as fast as you can, and you'll get into step such as you will have to walk to business every morning." So saying, he led Kate off with a good round pace towards Cavendish Square. I'm very much obliged to you, uncle," said the young lady, after they had hurried on in silence for some time. "Very." "I'm glad to hear it," said Ralph. "I hope you'll do your duty." I will try to please, uncle," replied Kate. Indeed, I—" "Don't begin to cry," growled Ralph. "I hate crying." It's very foolish, I know, uncle," began poor Kate. "Yes, it is," replied Ralph, stopping her short. "And very affected likewise. Let's see no more of it." Perhaps this was not the best way to dry the tears of a young and sensitive female about to make her first entrance on an entirely new scene of life, among cold, uninterested strangers, but it had its effect notwithstanding. Kate coloured deeply, breathed quickly for a few moments, and then walked on with a firmer and more determined step. "Uncle," she said, when she judged that they must be near their destination, I must ask one question of you. I am to live at home?" "At home?" replied Ralph. "Where's that?" I mean with my mother, the widow," said Kate emphatically. "You will live, to all intents and purposes, here," rejoined Ralph. "For here you will take your meals, and here you will be from morning till night, occasionally perhaps till morning again." "But at night, I mean," said Kate. I cannot leave her, uncle. I must have some place I can call a home. It will be wherever she is, you know, and may be a very humble one." "Maybe," said Ralph, walking faster in the impatience provoked by the remark. "Must be, you mean? Maybe a humble one. Is the girl mad?" The word slipped from my lips. "I did not mean it, indeed," urged Kate. "I should hope not," said Ralph. But my question, uncle, you have not answered it." "Why, I anticipated something of the kind," said Ralph. "And though I object very strongly, mind, I have provided against it. I spoke of you as an outdoor worker, so you will go to this home, nay, that must be very humble, every night." There was comfort in this. Kate poured forth many thanks upon her uncle's consideration, which Ralph received as if he didn't care about them at all, and they arrived without any further conversation at the dressmaker's door, which displayed a very large plate with Madame Mantalini's name and occupation, and was approached by a handsome flight of steps. There was a shop to the house, but it was let off to an importer of Otto roses. Madame Mantalini's showrooms were on the first floor, a fact which was notified to the nobility and gentry by the casual exhibition near the handsomely curtained windows of 2 or 3 elegant bonnets of the newest fashion, and some costly garments in the most approved taste. A liveried footman opened the door, and in reply to Ralph's inquiry whether Madame Mantalini was at home, ushered them through a handsome hall and up a spacious staircase into the show saloon, which compared two spacious drawing rooms and exhibited an immense variety of superb dresses and materials for dresses, some arranged on stands, others laid carelessly on sofas, and others again scattered over the carpet, hanging on the cheval glasses, or mingling in some way with the rich furniture of various descriptions with which the room was profusely displayed. They waited here a much longer time than was agreeable to Ralph Nickleby, who eyed the gaudy frippery around him with very little concern, and was at length about to pull the bell when a gentleman suddenly popped his head into the room, and seeing somebody there, as suddenly popped it out again. "Hello! Hello there!" cried Ralph. "Who's that?" At the sound of Ralph's voice, the head reappeared, and the mouth, displaying a very long row of very white teeth, uttered in a mincing tone the words, "Damn it! What, Nickleby? Oh, damn it!" Having uttered these ejaculations, the gentleman advanced and shook hands with Ralph with great warmth. He was dressed in a gorgeous morning gown, with a waistcoat and Turkish trousers of the same pattern, a pink silk neckerchief, and bright green slippers, and he had a very copious watch chain wound around his body. Moreover, he had whiskers and a moustache, both dyed black and carefully curled. "Damn it! You don't mean to say you want me, do you? Damn it!" said this gentleman, smiting Ralph on the shoulder. "Not yet," said Ralph sarcastically. "Ha, ha, ha! Damn it!" cried the gentleman, when, wheeling round to laugh with greater elegance, he encountered Kate Nickleby, who was standing nearby. "My niece," said Ralph. "I remember," said the gentleman, striking his nose with the knuckle of his forefinger as a chastening for forgetfulness. "Damn it! I remember what you came for. Step this way, Nickleby. My dear, will you follow me?" "Ha, ha! They all follow me, Nickleby. Always did. Damn it, always." Giving loose to the playfulness of his imagination after this fashion, the gentleman led the way into a private sitting-room on the second floor, scarcely less elegantly furnished than the apartment below, where the presence of a silver coffee-pot, an egg-shell, and sloppy china for one seemed to show that he had just breakfasted. "Sit down, my dear," said the gentleman, first staring Miss Nickleby out of countenance, and then grinning in delight at the achievement. "This cursed high room takes one's breath away. These infernal sky parlours. I'm afraid I must move, Nickleby." "I would, by all means," replied Ralph, looking bitterly around the room. "What a damned rum fellow you are, Nickleby," said the gentleman. "You are the damnedest, longest-headed, queerest-tempered old coiner of gold and silver that ever there was. Ha, ha! Damn it!" Having complimented Ralph to this effect, the gentleman rang the bell and stared at Miss Nickleby until it was answered, when he left off to bid the man desire his mistress to come directly, after which he began again, and left off no more staring at Kate until Madame Mantalini appeared. The dressmaker was a buxom person, handsomely dressed and rather good-looking, but much older than the gentleman in Turkish trousers whom she had wedded 6 months before. His name was originally Mantle, but it had been converted by easy transition into Mantalini, the lady rightly considering that an English appellation would be of serious injury to the business. He had married on virtue of his whiskers, upon which property he had previously subsisted in a genteel manner for some years, and which he had recently improved after the patient cultivation by the addition of a moustache, which promised to secure him an easy independence, his share in the labours of the business being at present confined to spending the money, and occasionally, when time ran short, of driving to Mr. Nickleby to procure discount and at a percentage for the customers' bills.
"My life," said Mr. Mantalini, "what a devil of a time you have been!"
"I didn't even know Mr. Nickleby was here, my love," said Madame Mantalini.
"Then what a doubly damned infernal rascal that footman must be, my soul!" remonstrated Mr. Mantalini.
"My dear," said Madame, "that is entirely your fault."
"My fault, my heart's joy?"
"Certainly," returned the lady. "What can you expect, dearest, if you will not correct the man?"
"Correct the man, my soul's delight?"
"Yes. I am sure he wants speaking to loudly and badly enough," said Madame, pouting.
"Then do not vex yourself, my dear," said Mr. Mantalini. "He shall be horsewhipped till he cries out damnably."
With this promise, Mr. Mantalini kissed Madame Mantalini, and after that performance, Madame Mantalini pulled Mr. Mantalini playfully by the ear, which done, they descended to business. "Now, ma'am," said Ralph, who looked on at all this with such scorn as few men can express in looks, "this is my niece." "Just so, Mr. Nickleby," replied Madame Mantalini, surveying Kate from head to foot and back again. "Can you speak French, child?" "Yes, ma'am," replied Kate, not daring to look up, for she felt that the eyes of the odious man in the Turkish trousers and green dressing-gown were directed at her.
"Like a demmed native?"
asked the husband. Miss Nickleby offered no reply to this inquiry, but turned her back upon the questioner as if addressing herself to make answer to his wife. "We keep 20 young women constantly employed in this establishment," said Madame. "Indeed, ma'am," replied Kate timidly.
"Yes, and some of 'em demmed handsome too. Ha, 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 damn it!"
"Mantalini!" exclaimed his wife in an awful voice.
"My senses idle," said Mantalini.
"Do you wish to break my heart?"
"Not for 1,000, for 20,000 hemispheres, populated with little ballet dancers," replied Mr. Mantalini in a poetical strain.
"Then you will, if you persevere in that mode of speaking," said his wife. "What can Mr. Nickleby think when he hears you?" "Oh, nothing, ma'am, nothing," replied Ralph.
I know his amiable nature and yours, small little remarks that give a zest to your daily intercourse, lovers' quarrels that add sweetness to domestic joys, which promise to last so long. That's all, that's all.
If an iron door could be supposed to quarrel on its hinges, and to make a firm resolution to open with slow obstinacy and grind them to powder in the process, it would emit a pleasanter sound in doing so than did these words in the rough and bitter voice in which they were uttered by Ralph Nickleby. Even Mr. Mantalini felt their influence, and turning affrighted round, exclaimed,
"What a damned horrid croaking!"
"You will pay no attention, if you please, to what Mr. Mantalini says," observed his wife, addressing Mr. Nickleby.
"I am sure I don't, ma'am."
"Mr. Mantalini knows nothing whatever about any of the young women," continued Madam, looking at her husband and speaking to Kate. "If he has seen any of them, he must have seen them in the street, going to or returning from their work, and not here. He has never been even in the room. I do not allow it. What hours of work have you been accustomed to?" "I have never yet been accustomed to work at all, ma'am," replied Kate in a low voice.
"For which reason she'll work all the better now," said Ralph, putting in a word, lest this confession should injure the negotiation.
"I hope so," replied Madame Mantalini. "Our hours are from 9 to 9, with extra work when we're very full of business, for which I allow payment as overtime." Kate bowed her head to intimate that she heard and was satisfied. "For meals," continued Madame Mantalini, "that is dinner and tea, you will take here. I should think your wages would average from 5 to 7 shillings a week, but I can't give you any certain information on that point until I see what you can do." Kate bowed her head again. "If you are ready to come," said Madame Mantalini, "you had better begin on Monday morning at 9 exactly, and Miss Nagg, the forewoman, shall then have directions to try you with some easy work at first. Is there anything more, Mr. Nickleby?"
"Nothing more, ma'am,"
replied Ralph, rising. "Then I believe that's all," said the lady. Having arrived at this natural conclusion, she looked at the door as if she wished to be gone, but hesitated notwithstanding, as though unwilling to leave Mr. Mantalini the sole honour of showing them downstairs. Ralph relieved her from this perplexity by taking his departure without delay, Madame Mantalini making more gracious inquiries as to why he never came to see them, and Mr. Mantalini anathematizing the stairs with great volubility as he followed them down, in the hope of inducing Kate to look around. A hope, however, which was destined to remain ungratified.
"There,"
said Ralph when they got into the street.
"Now, you're provided for."
Kate was about to thank him again, but he stopped her.
"I had some idea," he said, "of providing for your mother in a pleasant part of the country."
He had a presentation to make some almshouses on the borders of Cornwall, which had occurred to him more than once.
"But as you want to be together, I must do something else for her. She has a little money?"
"A very little," replied Kate.
"A little will go a long way, if it's used sparingly," said Ralph. "She must see how long she can make it last, living rent-free. You leave your lodgings on Saturday?"
"You told us to, uncle."
"Yes.
There is a house empty that belongs to me, which I can put you up into till it's let. And then, if nothing else turns up, perhaps I shall have another. You must live there."
"Is it far from here, uncle?" inquired Kate.
"Pretty well," said
Ralph.
"It's in another quarter of the town at the east end, but I'll send my clerk down to you at 5 o'clock on Saturday to take you there. Goodbye. You know your way. Straight on."
Coldly shaking his niece's hand, Ralph left her at the top of Regent Street and turned down a by-thoroughfare, intent on schemes of money-getting. Kate walked sadly back to their lodgings in the Strand.